Oh, the shark, babe.
All right, we have reached 18 gallons of hot, sweet wort to the kettle. And I struck the kettle a little later than I should have, because I could have struck the kettle just after we started receiving the wort. Nevertheless, the kettle will be boiling here in just a little while, and we'll be ready to add hops. Okay, this is a critical part of the process, because we have all this protein forming on the surface, and as soon as this starts to boil, it can very easily boil over. It is right on the verge. I'm seeing some big bubbles pop up every once in a while, so you can't turn your back on it at this point, or it will get you. It'll boil over the sides and make a giant mess, burn all that sugar onto the sides of your kettle. Not that it's ever happened to me, but I've heard of it told. There we go. We've got a good boil going. I might need to turn down the heat a little bit. I've skimmed off a bunch of the protein. It's called hop break, so that will help keep it from boiling over. Okay, I've got 3 ounces of Columbus hops, which are a high alpha hop. Gives us lots of bittering. It's going to go in for 60 minutes. And a hop bag. I'm fixing to put that in there for our first hop addition. Okay, we have added our first hop addition. That is 3 ounces of Columbus. Now I've started my 1-hour timer. After 40 minutes, I'm going to add the second addition hops. This addition of hops is the bittering hops. This is what adds all of the bitterness, because boiling the hops isomerizes the alpha acids in the hops, and it makes them, it's what catalyzes the bitterness, is that long boil. And you got to have the bitter with the sweet, right? So then, after about 40 minutes, we are going to come back and add the second addition of hops. That's going to be 3 ounces of East Kent Goldings. Goldings hops grown in the East Kent region of England. All right then. Okay, I have added a second hop addition, 3 ounces of East Kent Goldings. Now I wasn't getting the evaporation that I needed at 40 minutes into the boil. I was still at about 17 gallons, and with only 20 minutes left, I didn't think that was going to get me down to the volume that I wanted and down to the concentration that I wanted for my final gravity. So I let it go another 20 minutes with the initial hop addition. So that means it's going to go it's going to go 1 hour and 20 minutes, or 80 minutes with that initial hop addition. Shouldn't make much of a difference in the BTUs, and all of that is for bittering anyway. So I don't think that's going to alter the flavor profile very much at all, but it gave me a little bit more time to boil the wort down. So we've started the timer for the last 20 minutes, and we're going to add the Irish moss here in a second. Okay, we added our 20-minute hops, and then we added our last addition, which was at knockout or flame out, when you turn off the flame to the boil. and that was 4 ounces of East Kent Goldings, and that's all going to be for aroma. The 20-minute hops are for flavor. The 80-minute hops are for bittering. So right now we are recirculating the near boiling bitter wort through the pump and the wort chiller to sanitize everything, get any germs cleaned out and killed that might have been in there. And in a few minutes I'll hook up the ice water pump and we will start chilling this whole batch down. I've got these shirts soaked in iodophor solution, which is an iodine-based sanitizer, and that is, just to keep the stuff that's in the air. I've had all kinds of stuff blowing out of the trees, little blooms and things like that, and I want to keep anything out of there now that's not going to be boiled, because this is going to be getting chilled down here pretty soon. We don't want any contamination. All right. Y'all ready for this? All right. By the way, just in case you're wondering, with the boiling wort going through that coil, that thing is piping hot. We've got boiling wort going through there, and we are just about to start chilling. Got my submersible pump in there. Here we go. Hang on a second. All right. I'm chilling like a villain. Yes, I know I sound very, very white when I say that. I'm recirculating this ice water here. Let's see what we got here. And that's actually coming out warm. You know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to be a little bit wasteful and run that out right there. And then I'm going to refill that with cold water. That's actually pretty cool. I'd say it's about 80, maybe 90. But it's going to chill that whole batch down. Hot dog. I just did a sample. I better add a little bit more chill water. I just did a sample with my Brix refractometer. You put a couple of drops. You open up the slide here, the cover. You put a couple of drops on this prism, and you look through at a light source. And there is a scale in there that registers. There's a divide between a blue section and a white section. I wish you could see it. And it tells me that my wort in the kettle is 18 Brix. I'm going to check and see what the specific gravity of that equals to.
Okay, YouTube. The last video clip, I was filling the fermenter. After that, I had a mad scramble to find some gear that I'd misplaced, and that usually happens pretty much every brew day for me. But I had basically I found my filter for my oxygen hose. What I did was I connected my welding oxygen tank to a 1/4-inch tube. Welding oxygen tank, then the regulator, then a hose barb, 1/4-inch tube, and then to a small piece of PVC pipe with hose barbs on it that you fill with sanitizer soaked or alcohol soaked cotton balls, and then you hook that back together, and then another piece of tubing that goes into the fermenter, and at the end of that is an aeration stone. It's actually a piece of stainless steel that has tiny holes in it that blow bubbles. So you turn on the oxygen from the tank, it goes through the filter, and that's just going to catch any particles that come from the tank that could have germs, and then from there it goes through the rest of the line and through the stone and blows bubbles. That made a big mess, even though I put simethicone drops, the Firm Cap S, in the beer wort. But it just bubbled and bubbled and bubbled and came out of the fermenter, which is no big deal because I left the sanitizer cleaned aluminum that I had, aluminum foil over the mouth of the fermenter. And it just foamed up and ran out and over the sides, no big deal. Afterwards I hosed it off and then wiped down the mouth of it with a sanitizer rag, and it was fine. And then I pitched the yeast. I had rehydrated about 5 packs of dried yeast. It was the Nottingham from Danstar. It's a good solid yeast. I've used that lots of times. And so I'll show you what the result is. Okay, here is the fermentation chamber, my freezer that we do our ferment in. And we're about 36 hours into fermentation, and as you can see, my little thumper jug is just bubbling away. Man, that's a good active fermentation. I used a blow-off tube instead of just a regular bubbler airlock because with all that sugar, this beer weighed in at about 1.074, which is a pretty high gravity beer. It's not quite a barley wine, but it's still a pretty big beer. And with all of that sugar and about 5 packages of rehydrated Nottingham yeast, I've tended to have blow-offs, which is where the foam, the yeast will get so active that it'll foam up and it'll come into where you have your airlock, whether it, if it's a little bubbler airlock, and it'll clog that up, pop the airlock off with all the pressure, and then you've got a huge mess, foam and yeast and crud everywhere inside your fridge there. Not a lot of fun. Plus your airlock is compromised and it can let germs into the beer. Not real fun. That's almost as bad as having a boil over when you're boiling the wort. In this case, if we have a blow off, it'll come up through the tube and go down into the jug, which is just sanitizer solution, and make a mess inside there, which is nice and contained. No harm, no foul. But anyway, the fermentation kicked off pretty well after about, I'd say 18 hours. I saw some airlock activity. After about 24, it was really rocking along. And that's what you want. A good start within 24 hours. So I'm really happy with that. Okay, so even with the blow-off tube, we had my thumper jug filled up with crud and blew off. Let's see here. Look how much air is coming out of that fermenter. That's insane. This may be the most active fermentation I've ever had.
It's on the right, babe. Not that Maggie.